Hi, it's me, Jem, your favorite YouTuber, or not YouTuber. I don't really know, I post videos infrequently. Today, we're going to be doing one of my favorite episodes of just staring into the mirror and waiting for my reflection to kill me. I'm just kidding. Obviously, we're not doing that. Today, we're actually going to do two things at once because I hate myself and I'm ADD. We're going to be doing a movie review of the 2020 film. I can't call it anything other than that. The New Mutants. And we're also going to be doing a makeup tutorial at the same time because I am, again, an idiot. So let's get started. Step one, take off my fucking glasses and regret everything I've ever fucking done in my goddamn life. So I'm probably just going to do some of the base stuff first, and then we'll get to the movie review. But while we're doing that, I guess I can just take time to summarize the oh, the movie. So let's just get that on there. So New Mutants is the 2020 film. Basically, it's meant to be a sort of thriller, suspense thriller, set in the X-Men universe. I was going to say Marvel universe, but I don't think that counts. It's more of the X-Men universe, and it's basically the story of several teenagers who are being experimented on, I guess, is what you could call it. Let's see. Let me grab my stuff as I do this. So they're being experimented on at this facility. It's meant to be like a camp, kind of, just like a you're here, like a mental hospital or something like that. So they are there, and some weird stuff starts to happen after the new girl Danny shows up. Everyone starts having these kind of like PTSD flashbacks, and people start hallucinating these monsters from their past, and so eventually they all like work together, and spoilers, find out that it's Danny who's producing all of them, and that's her mutant power, is that she psychologically messes with people, taking their worst fears and like creating real monsters out of them. And then they have to go and fight the monsters, and Danny takes control of her powers, and they escape the evil laboratory, and that's it. That's the plot. So great. Now that that's done, let's really just fuck it up, right? I've got way too many different foundations. I think I'm going to go for a lighter look. I got this new little makeup here. Let me show it to the camera. Yeah, there you go. LA Girl. So it's like a lightener. So I'm gonna kind of try and go for a lighter look as we do this, because fuck it, right? It's a pandemic. We're not doing anything. I have nowhere to be tomorrow. Neither do you. Don't lie to me. You and I both know that you have nowhere to be tomorrow. So, might as well watch this video, right? Okay, what are we working with here? Kind of dark. Problem with trying to do a makeup tutorial while also having like to wear glasses is that you're constantly blind, so you're always just pulling yourself up way too close to the mirror. Now this is going to get a little risque, so like if you're under 18, you might want to pop off. I'm just kidding. But I don't want to ruin this jacket because it's my favorite jacket, so we're gonna do this shirt like this, I guess. So we'll be starting with this Sephora foundation, and then we're gonna kind of like lighten it as we go, because that would make sense, right? No. Okay, so now that that's done, and we have that base down, I'll start working on lightening it. But let's move on to the next part of the review, which is the actual review. So, I don't know how to say this, but it's a bad movie. That's the only way I can say it. It's just a bad movie. Don't go see it. You know, I compared it to the last X-Men movie I watched, which was Dark Phoenix, which was a bad movie, but it was laughably bad. Like, it was super easy to just kind of poke fun, make fun of how bad it was, because some of the insanity that was going on in it was just really easy to be like, they really wrote that line, huh? That was a line that they chose to write. And it was just really easy to be like, they really just let anyone say whatever the fuck they wanted, huh? This has no moments like that. It's just boring to start with. So that's just kind of the main summary. But it has some very specific issues that come to mind when I like think about movies and what it means to make a movie and why one would ever make a movie that's bad. And so the first main problem, and I have it. Oh my god. Are you empty? No, it was not empty. Good news. So the first main problem that I have written down here, I have a little notebook, is, and it's a number list. There's loosely 5 main points that I want to talk about, but the first one and the biggest problem is tone. This movie doesn't know what it wants to be, right? It spent most of its time advertising itself as kind of like a suspense thriller, maybe even horror movie, right? And that was the most exciting and most interesting piece of that, is that it was going to be this kind of like superhero horror movie combo, which would have been a really interesting thing, especially since we have such a weird, freakish love and affinity for superheroes that I don't think is going to go away anytime soon. Probably not until we at least reach the 2030s, 2040s maybe. Yeah, I said it. It's going to be around for another 2 decades. Buckle up. But yeah, so this would have been an interesting idea to execute. It would have been nice to see, like, how you would, what it's like to put superheroes into a horror movie, which is why the execution of it is so disappointing. I had such high hopes and they completely blew it. The movie kind of switches through multiple different tones, right? One is the suspense horror thriller. 2 is, let me double check my notes here real quick. What did I say? Oh, yes. A Breakfast Club teen drama style movie, which is a weird fucking choice, but okay. And then the last one is an action, like, traditional superhero movie. And in that order, it shifts tone to tone to tone. And it's just bad. It's really bad, and it's really not thought out the way it really needs to be. Hold on. Okay, so yeah. It's really bad because the idea of a suspense thriller with superheroes was really unique, really interesting, and they end up just kind of turning their back on it. They get bored with it pretty much, like, I want to say halfway through the movie. Like, halfway through the movie, they're just like, oh, this isn't worth it. And they just start writing something entirely different, and you can sense it. It's not like it's not noticeable. So the movie doesn't know what it wants to be, and that is a really, really big problem. Because movies should know what they want to be from the get-go. Know what your concept is, know where you're going, and know the story you want to tell. And this movie doesn't know at all any of those things. So, that brings us to the next problem, is pacing. Since the movie doesn't know how it wants to be organized, it ends up being... I'm using this little pigment changer. No idea how this is going to pan out. Let's get this to work for me and not against me. And she kind of has opinions of her own, and I'm not necessarily loving that. If you're wondering if I have an idea of what I'm doing, the answer is no. I don't. So we're really just kind of on an adventure together. I have loose concepts of what I want, but no real definitive goals. Anyways, back to what I was saying. So, the next biggest issue... Oh my god, this is not coming out the way it needs to. Let's try and just balance that. And we'll fix it in post. Ew, I look kind of pale. Honestly, that's to be expected. I might just use that for like a ghost look later. But... anyways, pacing. Pacing is really important. If you don't pace your movie right, well, you'll either have a movie that zooms by really quick and feels like a head rush and almost sickeningly fast. And if you have a movie that goes too slow, well, you're gonna have bigger problems of just interest being lost and ultimately there being no momentum in the movie whatsoever. This movie has that second problem. Because it wants to be this horror movie, it really tries to spend time doing kind of traditional horror tropes, right? You know, just going slow, taking your time, exploring the landscape, so on and so forth, and really just kind of not introducing the threat as soon as possible. And that's fine. That's okay. Like, that's a great way to do it. You really should, if you're going for a suspense thriller, take your time and don't necessarily introduce the monster or the threat right away. But this movie doesn't put anything in that spot, right? Where or other movies would probably spend time, you know, introducing characters and spending more time actually getting to know them and whatever. This movie doesn't really do that. It tries, but it doesn't succeed, and so ultimately it just feels like you spend 30-40 minutes with nothing happening, with nothing of like real consequence happening. Maybe there's like a little, you know, oh, the glass moved or whatever, you know, stupid shit like that. But this movie doesn't have anything substantial for the first 40 minutes of the movie, and that's a problem. If you don't have something substantial for the first 40 minutes of your movie, why would I want to wait for the other 40 to go by? I would probably just prefer to leave. So this movie doesn't know how to handle its time and doesn't really want to fix that issue. Hold on, I'm thinking. Okay. I think I'm going to do a little bit of darkening on the bottom with this other shade. I'm definitely supposed to actually put a pump on this, but I'm not going to. It's too late now. Because this movie doesn't know what it wants. It doesn't know how to spend its time. So the first 40 minutes, horrible, slow slog, through basically meaningless dialogue and very vague backstory drops and a couple of weird random kind of like I don't know I don't know what they were, meetings, I guess. The characters like sit down and they talk about their feelings, or whatever, and then the last 40 kind of drastically accelerate really really quickly, where it's like this thing's happening and this thing's happening and this thing's happening and this thing's happening and oh this all the things are happening, and then the movie's over, and it's gross. It's bad feeling. It feels bad, and they should feel bad. So that's kind of my big beef on the pacing, right? So the next, and this is a really big one, problem, is the characters. They are laughably forgettable. And I'm not kidding either. I genuinely... There's only one character who's distinctly memorable, and that's Ileana. She gives an insane performance and is just a crazy character the whole time, and I honestly want to know more about her and what she did and what she went through, and they never... She is the most interesting character and not the star. She's not the star, which is a disappointment, but they don't ever go into her backstory and explain what happened with her. So they just kind of are like, yeah, whatever. Which is super disappointing because she has one of the most interesting powers, which is that, like, her... I really could not begin to explain it. She's part robot, can teleport, travel between dimensions. If you know exactly what the fuck her power is, fucking drop it in the comments, because I have no idea. I have no idea what I'm doing, so we're just gonna keep making it up. We're gonna just make it up as we go. Don't ever buy this. It's gross and, like, really, really liquidy. I said what I said. They can come for me. I'm gonna steal a look, because the camera can tell me the truth. If we're being honest with ourselves, it's not terrible. Ew, look at that. Look at that. Can you see that? I don't know if you can see that. Hold on. Okay, so I'm back. I grabbed some paper towels just because I need them. I'm going to fuck around just a little bit more with the foundation. We're really just doing experimentation here, while I also give a movie review, because, again, I cannot stress this enough. A, what the fuck else am I supposed to be doing? And B, I don't know, I don't have a B point. There's gonna be a B point, but I don't have one. But the long end of the short end of it is shut the fuck up and watch. I'm gonna try and do kind of like contour again. Yeah. I probably look insane right now. Alright, so, characters. There was like 6 people in this movie. Hold on. Let me count. Yeah, there are 6 characters in this movie. Like 6... Like, there are other people who show up for like very short periods of time and then die. So there's 6 characters in this movie, and they are all incredibly forgettable, especially our main character, Danny. The main character, Danny, I wouldn't even know how to describe her. She's very bland. She's very plain as just like a person. She doesn't really have any unique, like, defining character traits. And neither do any of her like compatriots. They just kind of are like, and this is actually adds to the teen drama style thing. It's more like their character traits are like like personality types, right? So you've got Ileana, the psycho bitch. You've got what was the fuck was her name? I wrote it down. Rain, I think is her name. I think that's how it's pronounced. Sue me if I got it wrong. Don't actually sue me. I don't have money. Ray, who is the kind of like misfit girl, a little bit of like goth or whatever. And then you've got Sam, the country bumpkin with the broken arm. And then you've got Roberto, the hot guy. And then you've got Danny, the new girl. Oh, and Dr. Ray's the like strict authority here. And so that was the cast. That was just those are the characters. That's what they're working with. Now do you understand why I'm like, this feels like a weird teen drama? All of their backstories, except Dr. Ray's, are explored through infrequent flashbacks. They hop to the past and will just kind of meander through it in a dream sequence, so it's never told to you straightforward, and it's never really explained exactly what happens. So Sam is one of the best examples of this, where apparently he kills his dad and all of his dad's like co-workers in a mine accident because he goes supersonic or some shit, and it collapses the mine on everybody and they all die. This is told to you through the means of a couple of flashbacks where everyone is just a faceless silhouette. It's really dark and they're just in a mine shaft, and then it just ends. That's just kind of how it goes. And this happens like maybe two or three times. And it's never like, oh, he went supersonic and it blew up the mine and killed everybody. It's just like, oh, there was an accident in the mine. And you're like, I would like to see it, please. And this happens with every single character. It's like, this is the thing that got me here, and we don't fucking see it. We see like little inkling, little snippets, tidbits, or like flashbacks or current monsters that represent those events, but we don't see the event itself. And the event itself would be way more interesting if we actually just saw it. Like, there's a specific reference that they talk about multiple times, that Roberto killed his girlfriend during sex by setting her on fire accidentally, and she like burned to death. That is horrifyingly metal. I would have loved to see that, because I would have been scared. Make me care about these characters. Make me want to be afraid of them, just like they are afraid of their own powers. Just telling me, oh yeah, Roberto set his girlfriend on fire and she died, doesn't show me the kind of like horror of it, right? If you're going to do flashbacks, give me the flashbacks and like stills and shots of like her burnt up body. Give me the full scene, right? Show me like what's going on. How does that happen? Because oftentimes what they end up doing is they depict the character, especially specifically for Roberto and his girlfriend, they show her as this kind of like lava rock monster that like is trying to kill him, and that's because it's like one of his worst fears. It's like the triggering event, and I don't know what other word to use, but it's the mainline event. I want to see it. I just want to see it. I want to see it. I want to see him burn his girlfriend up. I want to see him going at it, and his girlfriend explodes into flames. It would be interesting, and I would be pretty freaked out. But they don't give that to you. They deny it to you completely, and they deny all of the other kind of mutation accidents and whatever from you entirely. And so it's just like, it's like, well, why would I care about these characters' past if I don't even get to see it? And the answer is I won't. That's just it. The answer is I won't, and I don't. There's that, and all of the character dynamics are really weird, to say the least. They end up kind of forcing Danny and Ray into like a relationship, and it's not earned. It's just given to them. There's like no like building to it or anything. There's no good rapport, falling in love, whatever. It's just like, oh, we're here, might as well date. It's bad. Well, I think it's time for me to do my eyes, and I think I've just been dreading it. So let's start this shit show. Well, I'm going for a pink look, so I'm going to use this Neutrogena Moisture Smooth. Let me just, yeah, there you go. My beauty guru yet, kids? Have I won? I really have to stop getting my makeup from like the drugstore, but also I'm poor, so subscribe to an OnlyFans? Don't do that. I'm cutting that out. I really just wrap these in whatever the fuck they have around the goddamn office. Do I want to use this as the pink eyeliner? Or do I want to use white? You know what? You're right. We'll use white. Got some white concealer. We're gonna see how this pencil pans out. I'll pay good money for whoever just sticks a little tab onto the end of the like little peely bit so I can fucking just open it. Like, girl, I see that it's perforated, but how's my fucking finger supposed to get in there? I love that they don't ever say whether or not this is like a mechanical one or if I'm just gonna have to pull out the sharpener. That's how it goes. Let's see. Yeah, I'm filming this on the floor of my bedroom. I don't have a studio, okay? You know, hold on. How do I look? It's not great, but we'll make it work. Oh, that's not bad. Look at that. I was about to be like, oh, maybe we might want to pigment it more, but look at that. That's stunning. Look at that. Oh, it's nice. Let's hope we can, we won't fuck it up on the other eye. That's not bad. Look at that. You know, usually I don't use pencils, but I think I might start using them more. Because, like, first of all, I think this will come off a lot easier. And especially since I do these in the middle of the night, I really do need the makeup to come off basically 10 seconds after I put it on. But, yeah, but I've been using liquid eyeliners, and they stay on for 3 whole days. I'll scrub my eye, fucking makeup wipes, cleanser, face cleanser, mycelic water, just anything, and it won't come off. It'll just have to come off when my skin itself comes off. So I do think I'll start using more pencils because I kind of like my eyes the way they are. Now, where did my dumbass put my straight edge? Ugh, my straight edge. Yeah, it's my high school ID. Fucking have to sharpen it already. I still firmly uphold the idea that pencil sharpeners are an archaic concept. Fight me. We're gonna see if this Wet n Wild palette has any help in what I'm trying to do. Boom. Look at that. Look at that. Oh. Beautiful. Sometimes she stops and checks her text messages because she's bored. Because, painting my face and doing a movie review at the exact same time isn't enough stimulation. Anyways, hold on, let me just... Sisters, not twins, right? So, now that hard part is done... That's right. And the next problem with the New Mutants is, and this is a very nitpicky thing, but it's the setting. So the whole movie takes place in an abandoned asylum style facility. So it's this giant building, I guess, like medical buildings, kind of a pretty large campus. Your straight up traditional concepts of like what an asylum would look like. And this asylum feels stupidly empty. And like in a bad way, right? Not like there were many people here before, but now they're gone. It's just empty. It's just empty. Not only are these 6 people the only people here, these 6 people are the only people here, and they are the only people who have ever been here. This place has been abandoned for years until they set up whatever weird laboratory they're running here, and they will be the last 6 people to ever be there. And so it's really detrimental to the theming of that like horror suspense thing, right? It's like you've got a really creepy location that's inherently creepy, right? Everyone hates an asylum, but it feels big, it feels empty, and it doesn't feel like meaningfully empty, right? It's not like, oh, we keep wandering into empty rooms and there's the remnants of humans, I guess, right? Like, not human remains, but just, a lost toy, some leftover clothes, abandoned wheelchairs, medical stations. It's just, we never explore it. I feel like we stay in the 5 rooms at most, and that's it. And so it just feels really small, really empty, and like there's no one here. I guess I have to fuck around and do eyeshadow now. So now I guess is the time to grab my palettes. I don't know what I'm going to use. I just know I kind of want to do a fun hot pink look. I don't know if that'll go well. There's like a 10% chance it doesn't go well. I look towards the home button, but I know the camera is here. So I don't know what to look for. Is it really fucking big? Can I? No. Alright, fuck it up, right? It's not bad. I want you to all know this smells so fucking delicious. I would eat this. If I was a 3-year-old, I'd eat this. I would eat it right away. It smells like peaches, mango, maybe a little bit of watermelon. This smells, I want a drink that smells just like this. Go get yourself a Neutrogena Moisture Smooth color stick. You can probably find it in a CVS, because that's where I fucking found this. It was a CVS or a Walgreens, I don't fucking remember. This smells delicious. And if you know how to make drinks, please send me the link to whatever drink would smell like this. Please, I need that in my life. Now let's get back to work. Okay, so the last and main point that I need to like talk about before we actually move on to the like closing and just kind of talking about how they could have done better, what I want out of any superhero movies that want to expand out of just being a superhero action packed drama or whatever, is oh man, it creased. That's gross. I don't know what to use. Where the fuck is my other sponge? Okay, so the last point. Ooh. Okay, so this is a really big one, and this requires like an actual expansion of lore. So let me just let's sit down and talk, kids. Hi. It's me, your favorite drag queen, Jem. I'm an idiot and I have ADHD. Let's be real. The history of X-Men is that they tend to stem from an analogy of marginalized people being marginalized, right? It's just a giant analogy. So the whole world is this analogy that the whole world's analogy, right? The whole X-Men universe is this big, really complicated analogy to like tell people who are not oppressed about the plight of oppressed people. And you can be like, do you like the X-Men? Yes? Then like you should understand the plight of insert marginalized group here. And one of the biggest marginalized groups that the X-Men most represent is queer people. Because they, for the most part, look like other just ordinary, normal human beings that have just like some special powers or whatever. Different preferential, right? So, this movie has very big conversion therapy analogies and imagery. And remember how I said Danny and Ray get together? So there's kind of a problem with that. So not only does this movie not start with like a trigger warning, and it might have just been the fact that I went to go see it at like a drive-ins, right? You know, maybe at other movies they like really do have a nice little trigger warning and being like, hey, if you're triggered by these things, here's what it is. But my movie didn't have that. And so you get this movie that is very heavy-handed with conversion therapy analogies, and then on top of that they put two actual, like, I mean, not actual, like, you know, the actors are queer, but they put two characters who are queer into that scenario. And so immediately you've got a lot of really big problematic things that stem from that, right? And so not only did they not earn the relationship between Danny and Ray, they didn't do the work for it, but they also have now put queer people into a giant conversion therapy analogy, and it's bad. It's bad. And so it's like, not that I don't want queer people in my movies, but I don't like the idea of fetishizing and utilizing queer suffering in already very prominent, like, queer issue based analogies. So for me, I'm just kind of like, it's okay, you don't have to include queer people in every movie. And this is one of those movies where it kind of would be worse to include them, because it's like you're putting these characters through basically what is conversion therapy, and I, as a queer person, don't want to see that. Not that I'm like, oh, I don't want to, you know, whatever, but like queer suffering is not something that like is necessarily something I want to seek out. I would much rather kind of explore more about like queer enlightenment and enrichment and stuff like that. And if you are going to depict that type of queer suffering, I would like a warning beforehand. So this movie just never does that, and it ends up throwing these characters into that situation, and it's bad. So if you're writing a movie and you've got an analogy for something that is already a problem in an actual community in the world, maybe just let your analogy be enough and don't actually put characters who would already, like, who in our real world are already existing in the real world suffering version of your analogy, if that makes sense. I don't know if it makes sense, but it made sense to me. We've got all these palettes and no ideas because what? My brain is empty. Okay. I have some ideas now. Creased again. Can you see it? I don't know if you can see it. Okay, so we're going to do some more eyeshadow. Maybe we'll fix whatever the fuck's going on with my goddamn fucking eyes. Or not, who knows. I'm gonna be a dumb bitch and I'm just gonna start in the middle. Okay, so now that we kind of tackled all of the main problems, I think I'm going to just kind of offer up what I would do with this movie if somebody brought me this movie again and was like, hey, we want to re-release this concept. Go back in time, Men in Black, the entire population, just, you know, or whatever. Erase everyone's memory of this bad movie. So the first thing I would do is I would make sure my tone is correct. The horror thriller superhero movie is a great concept. I loved it. I love 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 it. Let's go with it. I think... Sorry, my Alexa just popped on. Nobody asked for you. I need to make it abundantly clear that nobody asked for you, Jeff Bezos. Trying not to fuck my entire life up here. So, there are two main directions that you can take this with. Obviously, I'm preferring to take it the horror thriller direction, but the other direction that would have been interesting was the teen drama direction. There is a lot of potential there, and we can maybe get into it another day, but today we're going to just talk about the horror thriller direction. And that comes down to a couple of major things. Hold on, I can just... Horror thriller direction. This means we're basically just going to try and avoid any major action scenes or slowly drifting into like teen drama, right? We're going to just solely kind of focus on building a world around the scary concept, right? So I'll keep the idea that Danny is the main cause of most of the problems, just because it's an interesting idea and I think there's a lot to be played with there. But I think one of the first things I would do is I would make sure that the kids are just using their power. Like, the way that they're able to use their powers is incredibly limited physically, right? Either they're, you know, clamped with like a bracelet or whatever that shocks them whenever they use their powers. Or, you know, Dr. Rains has, I don't know, mind controlling powers that stops them from doing that. Something, right? That way you take away their power. Right? So they are basically powerless. Maybe only able to manage a little couple of like flare shots or whatever. Otherwise, if you actually had them fully powered up, it might take away from that. And another solution for this is not necessarily dampening their powers, but just amplifying Danny's, right? So these monsters can hurt you, but because they're kind of just projections of like your personal fears, they cannot be hurt. Which is not something that is true in the actual movie. They like literally kill multiple different monsters, and it's kind of dumb. So instead, choose one of those. I think I'm personally going to choose that the monsters can't be hurt, but they can hurt you. That's a typical trope. Obviously, if you choose the horror thriller direction, that kind of solves your pacing problem. This means you can spend more time kind of building the threat and getting really spooky and intimate about what's going on and leaving everyone kind of in confusion. I think the next direction change I would do is I change the setting. Take a note out of modern horror stories, right? So a lot of modern horror stories tend to. I have like 8 palettes and I'm looking for one. Oh my god. So, the next change I would make, like I said, is that you would change the setting. And taking it out of modern horror, you can really make a very modern house just stupidly scary. There's just so much about modern design and modern architecture that is just kind of naturally unnerving. So kind of just choosing a very like posh minimalist house out in say like the forest or something, or some secluded house somewhere would be a really good choice, right? So now you don't have to populate this entire asylum with like previous denizens and everything. The nature of this small house is that it's small house. It's meant for 6 people to be here, right? This is a small experiment. This is the first time they're ever doing something like this. You know, it's out secluded somewhere and it's mostly, left alone. Oh, this is, and another thing is, this is something I missed earlier, is that the way they contain and secure the facility is that Dr. Rains has the ability to project force fields. I personally would just be like, you know what, the force fields are electric. Like, fuck it, let's keep Dr. Rains. So, minimalist house, we're talking kind of like, one of those kind of square houses with big open windows, but really dark architecture and stuff like that. And then maybe if you want to make sure that like this is a bigger scientific facility or whatever, just give it some fucking catacombs. Imagine how spooky it would be if the kids had to like search through the catacombs to get lost belongings or whatever. It would be so spooky. You'd be like, I don't like this. This is tight. This is tight spaces. I don't like this. And that would ultimately kind of solve the setting problem that they have. Right? It's these 6 kids. It's always been these 6 kids. It'll never be anyone more. It'll never be anyone less. I fucked up my goddamn eyeliner. Ah! This is an interesting look, and it's kind of coming together. I'm kind of in love with it. Ooh. Damn. Ooh, she looked good. I love that at no point it occurs to me to like just stop the camera. It'll be the longest fucking review ever. Hi, Sabina. Where the fuck is my cap? She doesn't know where the cap is. Okay, so now that we have a cool setting, dark forest, out in the middle of nowhere, Monitor's house, small, with a secret facility underneath it. Now we just have to spend more time with the characters, and they actually have a really great framing device to spend more time with the characters, because like I said, this is just a giant analogy for like conversion therapy. There are like these sections where the characters are sitting together and doing like therapy meetings, and I think just taking more advantage of those to spend more time to like, instead of doing weird disjointed flashbacks, just straight up being like, this is my story. You're able to kind of do exposition while also it being justified and not annoying. So using that a little bit more and building the characters a little bit more. This is definitely nitpicky, but Sam not being a dumb country bumpkin or whatever would kind of be great. Like, he can still work in the mines or whatever, just he has such a bad accent. Just no, he just needs a generic plain American accent. It doesn't need to be that complicated. So there's that. I think just an interesting idea would probably be building the actual character dynamics between all of the characters a little bit better. I think a nice twist is that Dr. Rains is actually a good character instead of just some like horrible monster. which is something I didn't necessarily mention earlier in the review, but they basically pull this thing where it's like, oh yeah, she doesn't do anything distinctly bad to harm the children. She's just doing her fucking job, which is like take care of the children, make sure they don't kill each other, and whatever, until the very, very, very end of the movie where she is told to euthanize Danny because Danny's too powerful or whatever. And that is the only bad thing she really does. So, you really need to get a character straight. Either she needs to be a hard ass and probably the main antagonist slash villain, or she needs to be a good person, right? Who's just kind of working for a shitty company. And I think that is much more interesting, right? Is like she's strict enough because she has to make sure these mutant children don't kill each other. Otherwise, she's pretty much a good person, right? Just good person working for a bad company. Wow, we fixed a lot of the problems. If we're going to keep the queer relationship, work for it. I personally would just say don't put it in there until the end, maybe. Because, and this is the distinction, right? Throughout the whole movie, it's like from the start, Danny and Rain are like friends, couple, whatever. And so instead of doing that, just being like, save it for the very end. I know that's queer, it could be taken as queer baity, but I would prefer it that way. That way we're not like, oh, these characters are obviously queer and this is making this metaphor about conversion therapy bigger and kind of more problematic. There are so many fucking steps to makeup. I fucking, my god. So that takes care of all kind of 5 major points that we wanted to talk about. Look at that. Look at her creasing again. She really just doesn't like me. I'm going to use this little splash of orange. So, with my proposal, the movie would look a little bit more like this. Danny ends up being transported to this facility after her town is destroyed and it's discovered that she is a mutant. Nobody's certain on what the fuck her mutant power is. They just all know that she's supposed to be a mutant and that she is incredibly powerful or something. And so she's transferred to this facility. Fuck it, let's just say it's in like upstate New York or some shit. And she meets all of the other characters, and she's not entirely certain what the fuck she's doing there. But it's just basically like explaining that this is like, hey, this is a place for like orphan mutants who've been kicked out or abandoned by their parents, or their parents are dead, and that she'll be alright and she'll be safe here. Dr. Rains is the head of the facility. She too is also a mutant, but she has a medical degree. We're not sponsored here. Yeah, so Dr. Rains is the head of the medical facility, and by head we mean the only fucking attending staff there, and that's fine. Her mutant power is that she is able to produce shields, but they don't use that power to protect the facility. The facility is actually just safeguarded by actual electronic shields that only she has access to. Jesus Christ, this video is already an hour long. And this is like the second half. Oh, Jesus Christ. Let's do a makeup tutorial, they said. It'll be fun, she said. And then she spent 3 hours in front of a mirror talking about a bad movie. And by talking about, we really just mean rambling about, loosely meandering through a conversation with her reflection while she put on an ass load of makeup. Alright, so, Dr. Aiden's good character. We spend more time actually exploring this very small facility and actually getting the backstories of all the characters. And really just kind of seeing the kind of like horrific side of being a mutant, which ends up kind of giving a little bit more potency to, say, like a character like Rogue, right? Who has a power that is really, really fucking tragic, right? She can't fucking touch anybody. We kind of get to see this more horrific side of mutant powers and what happens when it goes wrong, or when you first start developing powers and whatnot. And it's not great. Don't hate it, but don't love it. And some weird shit starts happening at the facility. You know, it starts with like maybe nightmares. That would be fun. It just starts with nightmares, and everyone's affected, right? You know, we see Dr. Rain's afraid of something. I don't fucking know. Her big corporate boss is killing her or something, or you know, harm coming to the children. That wouldn't be bad. Yeah, I think I might be done with this look. So I'm gonna stop the video here real quick. I'm going to put on some lipstick and a fit, and then I'll be back to finish this video, I guess. Okay, so this is the final look. I kind of did know what I wanted from the lips. I wanted kind of more of a pink style, but pink lips look weird on me, so we had to throw in some purple, a little bit of white, give it a little bit of gradient. This is one of the most interesting looks because this is one of the few looks I've had that, in my personal opinion, looks better with my glasses on than without them, you know? I mean, look at that. Look at there's a difference, and you can definitely see, right? For me personally, it shines better through glasses. So, I might have been trying to ramble through the last parts of that review, my solutions. So I'm just going to try and do the most straightforward all the way through, because I'm no longer distracted by the makeup. I am just wearing it now. We need to change the setting. We need to change the tone. We need to maybe try and figure out how we want to address that problematic queerness being presented. And we also have to make the characters more enjoyable. So, let's start with tone. Horror. Just go suspense, thriller, tension, all of that. Right? No action, no teen drama, just straightforward. It's gonna be suspenseful, it's gonna be scary, people are gonna be dealing with some shit. Boom. Done. Now we have an interesting concept that's never been done before, and an interesting way to execute it. As far as the setting, I really think just kind of a remote forest, maybe near a cliff or something, dense trees, foliage, and stuff like that. A secluded kind of modernist house using lots of blacks, grays, and some whites to really get a very sterile but bleak environment. And thus, when you do that, you're able to make the place feel a lot more small and claustrophobic, and like, these are the only 6 people who are out here. This is it. This is 6 people out in the fucking forest. Anything could fucking happen. Boom. Right away, you've got something much more interesting, right? And you can entirely build an entire elaborate base system underneath the facility that's uses small spaces and stuff like that, and that way when you do get to the more scary parts where monsters might be chasing people around, or people are frantically running looking for help or whatever, you've got a much more claustrophobic space to experience it in. They try and do this in the asylum. There's a couple of scenes where it's like that, but it just, again, it doesn't work. The asylum feels big, it feels empty, it feels kind of like, there's 6 people here, how does nobody get lost? You know? So this fixes that. The other thing is just getting the characters right. First of all, and this is super nitpicky and a personal thing, but Sam's accent has got to go. It's bad, it's not good, it's not interesting. Fucking just let him talk like a normal American, you know? Or if there is going to be accent, do some good accent training. Maybe just try that. So we deal with that. This is also a weird thing. I didn't mention this earlier in the review, but Sam has like a prized possession. And like all of the characters kind of have like something from their past that like represents it. And Sam's like something is it's a piece of coal. I'm not kidding. I'm not shitting you. It is just a piece of coal that his dad gave him from a coal mine. It's so dumb. It's so stupid. So I would propose that we just either get rid of that because it's unnecessary and it doesn't really do anything, or replace it with something cool, like a geode. You can find, like, I don't know much about mines, but I feel like finding a geo in a mine is not an implausible thing, and it would be a much better gift and much more interesting than a chunk of coal. Like, a geo says, "Here, son, I love you." A chunk of coal says, "Here, son, go fuck yourself." Those are nitpicky parts. I think giving Danny any sense of like material character, like her character almost just centrally revolves around the fact that her dad's dead and that's it. And I kind of want her to have like a real character. You know, she can just be the nice girl, right? She's nice. She just went through a really traumatic experience. She's probably unpacking that, but overall, she's just a genuinely nice girl. Has soft hobbies, like, I don't know, notebooking or something. As far as Rain is concerned, I think she's actually pretty well developed. In a plot twist, she's pretty well developed. She kind of has a very clear, like, personality. Ileana can stay exactly the same. I love her. She's an insane bitch. Fucking go. Like, if you can find a way to make her even more insane, do it. As far as Roberto, he can be the hot guy. I really don't care. He has enough of a personality, I guess. Maybe add in 2 more characters, just because it would be helpful. It means that like later on you can actually have 2 extra characters that are relatively disposable, and so you can just kind of kill them off if you need to. And killing somebody off will definitely set a much more big tone of like fear than just like nothing going on, right? So now it's like, oh, this existential threat is deadly, right? And introducing the threat not 40 minutes in, but try 30 minutes in. There needs to be inklings of a threat by the 15 to 20 minute mark. Just, you know, something that maybe not everybody's going to notice, but like maybe the more detailed eyes will be like, did that door just close itself? Did you see that? What the fuck was that in the, you know? Give me some haunting of Hill House style like vibes, you know, where like if I stopped and paused the movie, I would like notice like 8 ghosts in the background and it'd be like, what the fuck is that? Instead of that, you know, you don't have to do that, but something, right? Oh, find a way to make the kids kind of powerless. I really don't want this movie culminating in, oh, you know, you can just use your powers to defeat it, or whatever weird way they do it. Like, because they do kill a bunch of monsters, and then, like, Danny just, like, tells her, like, demons or whatever. She's like, no, stop. And I think that's a little bit dumber. I think it would be much more interesting if everyone's having these, like, reliving these traumatic experiences through the form of these monsters, right? And they all have to tackle and grapple and find ways to, like, outthink the monsters, right? Because they're just kind of like not necessarily figments of their imagination, like they are real and material and they can actually physically hurt them, but they themselves might not be able to hurt the monsters. So being able to just kind of like work over it and whatever. And so like maybe like the twist would be, a really good twist would be if you find a way to like address it and address that trauma. So in the case of Roberto, who's the easiest to do, addressing the trauma by just being able to forgive himself for accidentally killing his girlfriend would be really interesting, right? And that being able to like unlock his mind so that he can harm the beast or whatever would be really cool. But obviously the monsters still keep coming until Danny does something. That would be really cool. Make Dr. Raines a good character. Just do it. She's almost there, because throughout the entire movie she almost does practically nothing inherently evil, right? She's just the person who runs this place, right? She makes sure the kids don't kill themselves or kill each other, and she makes sure they get medicine and they're fed and taken care of. So just make her a good person, right? Make her a good person working for an evil company, right? And really go through it and kind of like give me more time with her and understanding who she is and what her psychology is and what would bring her to be in a facility like this, right? You know, something like, I'm a good person and I believe in the innate goodness of mutants and I believe this facility is capable of reforming mutants or whatever, or helping them, you know, deal with their problems, right? Like a pseudo X-Men Academy, Charles Xavier Academy, I think is what it's called. I'm a fake fan. I'm not. I'm a little. So doing that way, like if she's asked to do something really dubious, like experiment on the children more and whatever, she kind of is like, oh, I'm not sure about this, or we sure this is the right thing to do? And then, you know, her supervisors or whatever are like, yeah, shut up, do the thing, right? And then like when we get to the scene where she's told to kill Danny, she's like, oh. And then they're like, do it or we'll have somebody else do it for you. And so she does it or whatever. Include a trigger warning, please and thank you. That's it. Just include one. Your entire movie is a giant analogy for conversion therapy. There should be a trigger warning from the goddamn get-go. And then, on top of that, don't introduce the queer relationship until the very end, after the threat has been defeated. And you can spend a lot of time hinting, alluding, and building towards it. That way it pays off in the end. And I don't have to go, oh man, this is kind of weird, I don't like this. Why are there queer people in like a conversion therapy analogy? I don't like that. Please, sir. I think all of those would help solve the problem that is that movie. It would make it a much more interesting movie. It would make it much better paced, right? Instead of 40 minutes of just nothing happening and then 40 minutes of insane shit happening and tone shifts and stuff like that. We keep it a lot more focused, a lot more honed in. Maybe the plot is more driven by all of the kids trying to escape and failing. That would be interesting. And just spending more time with all of the characters, using the therapy scenes as a good time to drop exposition or backstory or whatever, instead of just using shitty flashbacks that don't really explain what's going on. Just being like, here, this is what happened, and it's like, oh, that's bad. That's rough. That's a bad time. Sorry that happened. Instead of, I don't even know. But every therapy scene was like a new theme or whatever, and it was dumb. So instead of that, just give the characters time to talk about their powers and talk about their fears and talk about what happened to them. And don't be afraid to show it. Show me the dark side of, like, being a mutant, you know? Really make me kind of afraid of what these kids can do and kind of go, oh shit, like, maybe they should be locked up, you know? Make me interrogate my own personal feelings towards that. Because that's what I want. I want to be able to, like, personally interrogate my own personal feelings about that type of stuff. Other than that, it's a bad movie. Don't go see it. It's not even funny. It's just bad. If you want a bad X-Men movie that is funny, go watch Dark Phoenix, because the lines in that are insane. They really just let everyone kind of write their own personal lines and just say whatever the fuck came to mind. And it's hilarious. It's hilarious if you view it from that viewpoint. It's so funny. Because it's like, first of all, why is Charles Xavier so fucking horny? He's coming off real horny here. And that, no, I don't like it. Other than that, I think that's all I've got. So, this has been Jem Does a makeup tutorial and movie review. Bye! God, I'm going to fucking hate editing this.